Thanks for watching Cybernation ICAM, sponsored by GDIT with the Government Matters Thought Leadership Network, powered by Fed Insider. I'm Mimi Gerges. With more than 70% of data breaches occurring in accounts with single-factor authentication systems, according to DHS, federal agencies are turning to a multi-factor authentication called ICAM to keep hackers out and their data safe. ICAM stands for Identity, Credential, and Access Management, and it's better at protecting data while saving agencies millions of dollars. The Defense Department is one of those agencies. It's currently working to connect everything everywhere through its services and mission partners. So creating secure points to these networks using ICAM tools becomes more crucial to military operations. However, hybrid cloud systems and ever-evolving technologies have to be taken into account when creating a secure cross-service network. This 30-minute TV program brings together thought leaders from industry and government to discuss best practices for and challenges with Cybernation, ICAM. Joining me now, Stephen Hazelhorst is Chief Technology Officer of the Cyberspace and Information Dominance Directorate at the U.S. Air Force. Brandon Iskey is Chief Engineer for the ID2 Security Enablers Portfolio at the Defense Information Systems Agency, or DISA. And James Matney, he is Vice President and General Manager of the DISA and Enterprise Services Sector for General Dynamics Information Technology. Gentlemen, welcome to all of you. Steve, I want to start with you. Can you just define what we're talking about? What is ICAM?
Absolutely. So ICAM is going to be a collection of tools. It's not going to be one product, one tool, similar how we say with Zero Trust, it's multiple products that brings to bear a unified identity management solution that's comprehensive, enables a lot of automation that we don't have today, and also allows us to federate identities with other partners. As we all say, we don't fight wars alone. So if we all built identity solutions that were in silos and don't federate them, then we would kind of lose in the fight. We have to be able to federate.
Brandon, people have been using this kind of multi-factor authentication for years now. Why is the government a little behind on that?
So I would say in some ways, maybe we're behind, but in others, we've been kind of leading the way. So from an ICAM perspective, we've had a strong credentialing program for the better part of a decade or two, whether you look at CAC or PIV. But the access control piece of this and how we manage accounts throughout the life cycle, that's the piece that's really been missing from an enterprise perspective. We've left that up to each application owner and each individual program throughout the department to do. And so we have kind of a diversification of how that's been done.
So Steve, how much more secure is a network with ICAM? You know, obviously there's never a 100% secure system, but just how much more secure will DoD systems be if they can properly deploy ICAM?
Yeah, so it's not ICAM alone. So it's going to be a combination of multiple solutions that we'll talk a little bit maybe later, but combining ICAM, where we have very granular, modern ICAM will have very granular attributes that allows us to assign resources to individuals based on what role they are or what attribute they carry versus broadly assigning resources to everyone. Multi-factor authentication, I agree with Brandon. Honestly, I think we were leading the way when it came to multi-factor authentication. We just have continued to use CAC, while industry has looked for other ways, authenticators that make it easier, and we certainly want to adopt that. But from a multi-factor authentication, we're I think, leading the way, or have been leading the way, and the ability to do the attributes to limit access to specific resources will increase the security of the Air Force or the department tremendously.
And Brandon, can you explain DISA's role in DoD's implementation of ICAM architecture? How does it fit into that zero trust architecture strategy at DISA that you mentioned?
Absolutely, thank you. So from my vantage point, the Defense Information Systems Agency is an IT service provider to the Department of Defense. So from an ICAM perspective, we provide the implementation and sustainment capabilities for many of the identity capabilities. We also do this in conjunction with other organizations across the department. So we actually chair something called the JPIO, or Joint Program Integration Office for ICAM, which coordinates our efforts in enterprise services across DISA, DMDC, or Defense Manpower Data Center, and NSA, or the National Security Agency, as well as with DoD CIO. So there's a multitude of organizations that come together to bring the identity programs that we have within the department. And it's the same groups that will, again, help us drive zero trust. So again, with identity being a foundational part of zero trust, we'll be continuing to cover down on how we do person and non-person entity credentialing and access management throughout the life cycle.
And Jim, I want to bring you in. How has GDIT approached the ICAM solution? What are the core capabilities that support the ICAM solution? How does each one of those work together?
Well, first, thank you for having us on here today. The way we approached it, and we're very fortunate to be able to work with Brandon and his team, on the DISA side with their solution, and as part of the other transactional authority effort that we have going on right now. The main three components that we have is there's a master user record, right, which is takes the identities, all the context of the identities themselves. We have the identity provider piece of it, which also actually validates that user against that master user record. And then we have the automated account provisioning piece, which enables the identities, those individuals, to be aligned to the specific resources. So when you take those three main components, that's what's making up, what we call the ICAM solution. But one of the approaches that we took in actually coming up with the solution that we're currently working with DISA on right now, and also with the Air Force, it's the same solution that we're, working with the Air Force on their minimum viable product, is the portability aspect of it. It's easy to be able to come up with an ICAM solution, as you just mentioned, individuals, based off of applications, or even to support the development of an application if it's all CONUS. But as you just mentioned, being able to support the warfighter, as Steve mentioned, we don't fight them alone. It has to be federated. It has to go across enterprises, being able to use that individual identity, single identity across the different enterprises to be able to validate that user and what resources and applications that they have access to. So we looked at it from the standpoint of coming up with a solution that was portable, that enabled us to be able to not just implement it, on premises inside the DISA ecosystem, potentially anywhere that we needed to, including OCONUS.
I want to talk about DoD's Joint All-Domain Command and Control, or JADC2 project. First, explain what JADC2 is and what DoD wants to accomplish with it.
Well, our understanding of JADC2 is, it's new, the concept, for warfighting is that they want to have the single integrated tactical network that can be able to pull in the data streams from all sensors from across to all the military departments, all the services, and in order to be able to, so it can be analyzed to support decision making at the speed of relevance. And that's what is key is, you have to be able to accomplish that. We need to be able to have that common data fabric across all the enterprises to be able to support the analysis that is needed to be able to support that decision making that they're looking for. And the way that Steve and Brandon have been talking about with ICAM and the relationship to zero trust, that is what ties in. You have to be able to have that federation across all of it so you're able to access that integrated data fabric that you're looking for that's going to be needed to support JADC2.
And Brandon, what is DISA's role in JADC2? How is ICAM really supporting JADC2?
Yeah, so we look at it as a future initiative that we'll continue to prioritize. From our perspective, again, on those particular networks, our ability to federate with our mission partners outside of DoD is a critical capability and need and requirement there.
And Brandon, how do you want industry to help? Where do you see the best place for them to get involved?
I think it's just through a continued partnership. I mean, we have a lot of relationships both with GDIT here and Jim's team that's supporting us. But again, they're kind of our prime for this, but we have a lot of partnerships that are kind of under that big umbrella. And as well as from our vantage point, we want to make sure we're articulating what we are and aren't doing at the enterprise. Because the department's a big place. We've got a lot of initiatives across the department. We need them to be informed of what the enterprise is doing and what it's not doing. And we will be the first to acknowledge that we're not solving every single problem in this space. So there's plenty of opportunities for other companies, other vendors to also play in this space. And so again, our perspective is just being as transparent as we can on the progress we're making.
All right. Well, Brandon, Steve, Jim, thank you all so much for joining us and sharing your perspective. Up next, More of my conversation on DoD guidance for ICAM. We'll be right back.
Cybernation ICAM is sponsored by GDIT. Learn more at gdit.com.